Okay, welcome back to the channel once again. It's Plavi TV. And before I go on into the video, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Also like the video, share, and comment down below. Today, my video is about Rosenior, former Chelsea manager, only in the job for 4 months after signing a 6-year deal, who is now due about £24 million in compensation. As to whether Blue Co and Chelsea are going to end up paying that 24 million, it's up to them. We don't really know what is going to happen in respect of that, but I'm sure there's going to be some sort of negotiation with Liam to try and beat the amount down a bit and part ways amicably. Now, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where Rosenior failed to live up to the billing at Chelsea? Now, Enzo Maresca was there doing his job and got sacked. And that is how come Rosenior was brought from Strasbourg to come into the Chelsea dressing room and manage the affairs on the pitch. Let us not forget that when Enzo Maresca was in charge, it wasn't all rosy. Things weren't going extremely smoothly. I think there's been this rhetoric online that Enzo Maresca was doing well and there was no need for him to be sacked. True, he was doing well. He was being decent. After winning the Club World Cup, he was performing decently, but it still wasn't quite good enough. That is the first thing that I think we need to all understand. And in my estimation, the reason why Enzo Maresca was sacked was partly because things weren't going well, and he also wasn't happy with certain things that were going on between himself and those above him. If the results were going well, if the results were going perfect, for example, if they were challenging for the Premier League, I don't think all those issues would have cropped up. I think the issues cropped up started becoming worse and untenable when things started going a bit south, because Chelsea won the Club World Cup during the summer, and that raised the expectations of the club, both the fans and the higher ups. And when things started to go a little bit below what they expected, there were a whole lot of questions being asked. And Enzo Maresca didn't like it being questioned. I remember there was a time supporters were questioning him about player rotation and so on and so forth. And he came up saying something to the effect that it is the medical team that decides who is fit to play and who is not. And in some ways, he is limited as to being able to say or pick players based on his own decision making. It had to come from somewhere. And I think that was the genesis of Enzo Maresca's demise at Chelsea. So things weren't going as smoothly. Maresca was also trying to make some demands of the higher ups about player signings and so on and so forth. Because if you are going to put all that pressure on him, if you are going to question him about every decision that he makes, then he also needs to make demands about the kind of players that he wants to bring to the club. Because if you don't give him the players that he wants to bring to the club and you still demand results from him, it doesn't work. Because you keep bringing players perhaps who doesn't fit his style of play, who he's not comfortable working with, and that makes it difficult for a manager to be able to meet the expectations, especially when those expectations are extremely high. So I think that is how come Rosenior got out of the job. He was being questioned. He wasn't given exactly what he wanted. He didn't have the power that he needed to be able to operate, or let me say the free hand that he needed. And that is how come Enzo Maresca left the job. Now, when Enzo Maresca left, people were linking a whole lot of coaches, top coaches to the job. And for me at the time, I had always maintained that no top manager no top manager, Champions League winning manager, Premier League winning manager is going to come for this job. I always knew that from the way the owners worked, top coaches would find it very, very difficult to work in such an environment. And in fact, any individual would find it very difficult to work in that environment. Because in my view, these Chelsea owners almost behave as if they are those kind of employers who want to micromanage. They want to micromanage, even though they've hired someone as an expert to take care of things that go on the pitch. They still want to micromanage. They still want to have a say because it is their money. And for me, no top coach will be able to work in such an environment. Even when they promise you that they are not going to interfere, they will interfere. And so top coaches know that they won't take such a job. So Liam Rosenior comes in from Strasbourg. Of course, the only reason why we all think Rosenior got the job is because he's a yes man. He's their guy from Strasbourg. Strasbourg is a subsidiary of Chelsea Football Club. And so the owners basically brought him from their own second club to the Chelsea football team, expecting him to be their yes man, to do their bidding in the dressing room, do exactly what they ask of him. Whenever they want to sell a player and bin him off the first team, they are just going to tell the manager, bin him off, send him to the doldrums of the club, let him train with the under 23s, and we are going to sell him. We are going to move him out. We are going to force him out. This is what these Chelsea hierarchy, this is what they do. They treat people like animals. In my view, that is how they operate. And I think every single individual should wish that they would have the financial freedom not to work for an employer like that. Every single individual should pray that they don't get to a point where they have to work for such an employer, because it is not a good environment to work in. They sign players on long-term contracts and they tell these players, you are going to play here. They make all sort of promises, and immediately performances start to go a certain way. They bin you out. They put you on the fringes of the squad. Then they force you out like someone who is just an animal. So these people are not behaving like human beings. And I don't think individuals who really value themselves, who really value their skills, would want to work for such an employer. So for me, any coach who takes up this next job, I'm going to start looking at that person twice, because I wouldn't really understand why any coach would take this job. Any top coach, even a mediocre coach, shouldn't be taking this job. I think they should be told to go on the touchline and do the job themselves. That is what this Chelsea hierarchy should be told to do. So now Liam Rosenior comes in, and what I'm trying to get to is basically why Rosenior ended up failing and getting sacked in the end. I think Rosenior came in, the players knew that he was the yes man for the owners. They didn't agree with that. You can verify that from the statements and the interviews that were made by Enzo Fernandez, Cucurella during international break. They weren't fully on board with the coach. But at the beginning, we didn't hear that. Remember that when Liam Rosenior first came in, he won, I think, about 6 out of 7 of his first 7 games. And things weren't going that bad. So the players were winning. They had no reason to really complain. Immediately, things began to go south. That is when players came out to speak. What Rosenior basically did was that he tried to change the style. He tried to change a lot of things that the players were used to. And for me, I think that was his first mistake. What I think he should have done was to allow them to go out there and play the same way they were playing under Enzo Maresca, and then try to change things during the summer and next season, because he was going to be there. I think immediately he tried to change things. He tried to really force the players to build from the back, especially the build-up was completely changed. The whole build-up, the pressing strategy. It was completely changed. He started asking and telling people, this guy, the Santos guy, Andre Santos is his guy. He knew him from Strasbourg, and therefore he knows his system. And by hook or by crook, Santos should be starting Chelsea games. He started benching players like Enzo Fernandez. It was really hard for him to fit in Caicedo, Fernandez, Santos, and Cole Palmer in the same midfield. So he started making such decisions. And when you do that and you are winning, everything is okay. Nobody is going to question you. But immediately results begin to go south. That is when the questions begin. And I think when he started doing that, when he started chopping and changing, talking about players, certain people knowing his tactics more than others, talking about the fact that the players are still getting used to his tactics. Why are you changing things in the middle of the season? Why would you do that? And for me, that was the beginning of Rosenier's demise. He shouldn't have changed anything. He should have kept it very simple, gave them as little information as possible, and allowed the players to play the way they had been playing before, the way they knew how to play. Players who were not playing, I think he rushed them, trying to give them the opportunity to play. Players like Jorel Hato, Andre Santos, as I've said, Garnacho. He just tried to fit all these players in there. He was trying to be too political. He was trying to make certain players happy at the expense of other senior players in the team, and so on and so forth. So when you do that and things begin to go wrong, what happens is that the players lose faith. The players begin to think, really, is this guy going to take us to where we want to be? They realize that immediately results began to go south. They lost against Arsenal twice. They lost against Manchester City. I think they lost against Man U as well. And when you start to experience that bad results, that is when players begin to question you as a manager, because you came in promising them a whole lot and telling them to change the way they play and play your way, and that is going to work. And immediately results begin to go against them. They start to question whether really you are the man to take them to the destination where they want to go. These players are players who want to win. They have huge potential. They came to Chelsea to win, and so far they've won only Conference League and the Club World Cup. They want to compete at the highest level in the Champions League. They also want to really compete for the Premier League title. So if you're a manager and you come in and you are not putting an arm around them, you are not allowing them to play with freedom, and you begin to implement certain tactics that they are not familiar with. That is why Enzo Fernandez went out there and said that they had a settled formation. They understood what they needed to do. Enzo Maresca gave them stability. So from what he said over there, Enzo Fernandez, he's trying to say that the coach, Rosenior, came in and destabilized the team, their formation, and everything. And I think that is why they ended up where they've ended up now. So that is my take on this whole issue of Chelsea and Bluco. For me, before I end, let me say this. This Chelsea ownership is doing an experiment. And they are continually going to experiment. This experiment is not going to stop. As long as they remain as Chelsea owners, the experiment is not going to stop. They are going to continue buying players who are young and have some potential. They are still not going to invest a lot in experienced players. They will still continue to buy young players because what they think is that they can sell these players on for profit. They also believe that when they win something, no matter what that thing is, it is success. The plan has worked. So the whole thing about the Club World Cup, all the brouhaha, is that they wanted to show the world, they wanted to prove everybody wrong, that the plan has worked. The plan that everybody says it cannot work, it has worked. And for them, that is all they are out to do. They are out to prove everybody wrong, that they are going to operate differently, or they can operate differently and still achieve results. And for them, every little thing is good enough to claim that victory. So even if they don't challenge for the Premier League on a consistent basis, if they finish in the top 4, the plan has worked. And I don't think that is what Chelsea fans want. That is what Chelsea fans expect. It is not about top 4. It is about challenging for the Premier League. It's about trying to win the Champions League, the big one. And for me, as long as these owners remain challenging for the Premier League and the Champions League, it's almost impossible. Thank you very much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and also comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Thank you. See you.